But I just want to welcome everyone to the session. Thank you for being here, for your patience. I want to also thank the UN for organizing this important summit that aims to have a discussion on transformation in education. I want to thank you also our speakers. We have a set of speakers here, but we also have an important set of speakers that are coming from different parts of the world and will be joining us remotely. My name is Claudia Urrea. I'm the Senior Associate Director for PK-12 at the Jameel World Education Lab. We're located at MIT. The World Education Lab is aiming to create an education for everyone to thrive. And in doing that, we actually bring all of the MIT strengths to our collaborators to bring education innovation everywhere to transform education. So we're very excited that we're so aligned with the goals of the summit. Well, I just want to highlight for our session the importance of social and emotional well-being and how important and non-negotiable they are when we're thinking about transformation and education and bringing opportunities to those who don't have them. Often, social and emotional well-being of teachers is overlooked, and our session today brings that discussion. We will have two important examples of how that is being done. So UNDP has been a leader and is here to present an important project in Lebanon. The project is aiming to integrate peace building into formal and non-formal educational channels in Lebanon. I think the aim is to create violence-free schools, and I think that we all want that for our schools in our countries. The second program we're going to present is Ejada. Ejada is looking to improve children's well-being and learning outcomes. So those are important pillars of the project, and we're doing it through a sustainable teacher professional development approach. We're actually, our theory of change is aiming on teachers as social, social agents in the classroom. Again, welcome everyone. I think for this session, we're going to have a panel, but before the panel, we'll have remarks from UNDP and also from the Ministry of Education in Jordan before I introduce the panelists. So again, thanks everyone, thank you the speakers, and we're ready to continue just to catch up with time. The first remarks we're going to have are from Mohammed Saleh. He is UNDP Lebanon Country Office Deputy Resident Representative, and he's coming to us remotely. He will provide an overview of the UNDP program in Lebanon.
Conflicts happening at national and local levels. School environments often are problems and issues visible at the societal level. Whether in Lebanon or any other country all over the world, children come to school affected by what is happening in their country. Same goes for their teachers and their first educators and parents. While the most visible form of violence is the physical one, violence is also structural, psychological, and verbal. Ladies and gentlemen, according to UNICEF and Ministry of Education and Higher Education in Lebanon, protection on violence against children in school policy, violence in school can reduce school attendance, lower academic performance, and increase dropout areas. This has devastating consequences for the success and prosperity of children, their families, and the entire community. Ladies and gentlemen, first allow me to mention some numbers. Globally, half of students aged between 13 to 15, some 115 million report experiencing peer-to-peer violence in and around school. More than 1 in 3 students between the ages of 13 and 15 also experience bullying, and about the same proportion are involved in physical fights. Around 700 million school-aged children live in countries where they are not fully protected by law from corporal punishment at school. In Lebanon, 1 in 2 children is at serious risk of physical, emotional, or sexual violence, as families struggle to cope in the country's deepening crisis, and around 1.8 million children, this is more than 80%, are now experiencing multidimensional poverty and risk being forced into abuses such as child labor or child marriage to help their families make ends meet. Let me quote here what the Special Representative of Secretary General on Violence Against Children, Dr. Najat, has said. Lebanon's crisis threatens the present and the future of millions of children. Ensuring their protection from abuse, harm, and violence and safeguarding their rights are needed more than ever. Thus, it needs more support and attention from all the stakeholders in Lebanon. Ladies and gentlemen, at UNDP Lebanon, we believe that working on building and sustaining peace cannot happen without zooming into what is happening at the educational level, and thus in school and their environments. In fact, as per UNDP Lebanon's perception survey, 88% of the community members consider that violence in school reinforces cycles of violence in the broader community, and that 87% believe reducing violence in schools would help decrease tension and violence in the community. Finally, I would like to conclude by mentioning Article 27 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which says that education shall be directed toward the full development of the human personality and promote understanding, tolerance, and friendship among all nations, racial or religious groups. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. These are important numbers to really frame this conversation. I'm going to move with our next remarks. Mohammed As-Samadi is the Director of Professional Development Policies at the Jordanian government and also joining remotely.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. تحية طيبة للجميع. تسعى وزارة التربية والتعليم في الأردن للتطوير المستمر فيما يخص برامج ومنهجية وسياسات التنمية المهنية للمعلمين، وينعكس ذلك من خلال الشراكات الدولية التي تعقدها الوزارة مع العديد من بيوت الخبرة العالمية، لا سيما الجهات الدولية والداعمة والمانحة. Ejada, please.
Good morning and good evening, everybody. The Ministry of Education in Jordan seeks continuous development with regard to the professional development programs, methodologies, and policies for teachers. And this is reflected through the international partnerships that the ministry holds with many global think tanks, especially international donors and supporters.
ويعي القائمون على وضع سياسات التنمية المهنية واقع المعلمين في الأردن وفي المنطقة بشكل عام، وخاصة الانعكاسات التي ترتبت على المعلمين والطلبة نتيجة جائحة كورونا وما تزامن معها من تغيرات جذرية ومتطلبات تقنية قد تكون أثقلت كاهل المعلمين، مما زاد قناعة الوزارة بأهمية توفير الدعم النفسي والاجتماعي للمعلمين وتعزيز الرفاه لديهم، إيمانا بأن رفاه المعلم وراحته النفسية والاجتماعية تنعكس بشكل مباشر على ممارسته التعليمية، مما يسهم في تحسين جودة ومخرجات التعلم لدى الطلبة.
The Ministry of Education officials who are in charge of setting professional development policies are specifically aware of the actual situation of teachers in Jordan and generally in the region, especially the consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic on teachers and the students, and what had resulted from the simultaneous radical changes and the technical requirements that may have duplicated the burdens on teachers. This matter increased the ministry's conviction of the importance of providing psychosocial support for teachers and enhancing their well-being by believing that the teacher's well-being and psychosocial comfort will directly reflect on the educational practices, which will certainly contribute to the improvement of the quality learning and education and to the educational outcomes for students.
وجاء برنامج بناء القدرات الذي طورته وتنفذه حاليا مؤسسة إنقاذ الطفل في الأردن ليؤكد قناعات وزارة التربية والتعليم، حيث صمم البرنامج ليلبي الاحتياجات العاطفية والنفسية والاجتماعية والمهارية لدى المعلمين، حيث أن مكونات هذا البرنامج تنسجم تماما مع توجهات وسياسات التنمية المهنية، وكان هذا التعاون نموذجا ناجحا لدعم سياسات الوزارة في تحقيق توجهاتها.
The capacity building program, which was developed and currently is implemented by Save the Children Jordan, confirms the ministry's convictions as the program is designed to meet the emotional, psychological, social, and skill needs of teachers. The components of this program are fully consistent and meet the directions and policies of the Ministry of Education's professional development. This cooperation is a successful model to support the ministry's policies in achieving its goals and targets.
كما أنه من خلال مؤسسة إنقاذ الطفل جاءت دراسة الرفاه المهني للمعلمين في الأردن، والتي طبقت على ما يقارب 5000 معلما ومعلمة في كافة مناطق المملكة، واستهدفت استطلاع درجة الرفاه المهني للمعلمين في الجوانب المالية والبنية التحتية المادية والجانب الاجتماعي والنفسي والبدني والمعرفي، وأظهرت نتائجها مدى حاجة الوزارة لمثل هذه البرامج في خطتها للتنمية المهنية، حيث أشارت النتائج وبشكل واضح إلى وجود درجة من منخفضة إلى متوسطة في مستوى الرفاه المهني لدى المعلمين.
In addition, Save the Children Jordan conducted the study of the occupational well-being of teachers in Jordan, which was applied to nearly 5,000 male and female teachers in all regions of the kingdom. The study aimed to explore the level of occupational well-being of teachers in regards to financial aspects, school infrastructure, social, psychological, and physical aspects. The results of the study showed to which extent the Ministry of Education needs such programs in its professional development plan. The results clearly indicated that the range is from low to medium degrees in the levels of occupational well-being of teachers.
سعيا لاستمرارية تنفيذ هذه البرامج، فقد تم اعتمادها من قبل وزارة التربية والتعليم لتشكل فرصا للتطور الوظيفي للمعلمين ضمن نظام الرتب المعتمد لدى الوزارة، إضافة لما لها من انعكاسات إيجابية على البيئة التعليمية، حيث تسعى الوزارة إلى توسيع نطاق التدريب يشمل فئة أكبر ممكنة بشكل واضح من المعلمين في الأردن خلال السنوات القادمة.
Finally, for the aim and pursuit of the continuity of the implementation of these programs, the Ministry of Education had approved the program in order to constitute career development opportunities within the approved ranking system of teachers and because of the positive outcomes on the educational ecosystem. The ministry is looking for expanding the scope of training so that it will offer this training opportunity to the largest possible number of teachers in Jordan during the coming years.
في الختام، كل الشكر لكم على إتاحة هذه الفرصة للحديث عن تجربة الأردن الخاصة في هذا البرنامج. شاكر جدا لجميع القائمين على هذا الحدث.
Finally, I would like to thank all of you for making this opportunity to speak about the Jordan's experiment in the education reform and development. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. As you heard, some of the details of the Ejada program in partnership with the Ministry and Save the Children. We'll have a little bit more details before we engage in the panel. I want to share also a video for context from one of their students. I feel like when we think about social emotional learning and the students we want to serve, we want to hear from our kids, and this is one of the things we want to highlight here with this video. We have different ways of translating. You can read the transcription in the screen.
أنا كثير مبسوطة كوني أحد أعضاء فريق الإلكتروني صغار، لأنه زادت ثقتي بنفسي وصرت قادرة على عمل سؤال وأفكار مهمة للدروس. أنا كثير مبسوطة كمان لأني صرت قادرة على عمل لعبة إلكترونية تعليمية ومفيدة وأعمل أشياء جديدة مفيدة، وكل هذا بفضل معلمتي المحترمة ماجدة جراح.
This is great. I feel like we have a context, some data in terms of social and emotional learning, partnerships that are important when we are addressing these issues in the ecosystem and the education system. So some of that message from the Jordanian Ministry of Education. I'm happy now to introduce our panelists to offer more details.
Sorry, there's no voice.
Oh, okay. I feel like we are going to pass that. And just to keep our attendees remotely into the same conversation, this computer is not connected to the bigger system, so I'm sorry you couldn't hear the sound. We'll make sure people get access to this video. I'm going to just... in the interest of time, introduce...
Excuse me, there's no voice. I cannot hear anyone.
Okay. So, well, they're trying to fix it.
Can you hear us now?
Can you hear us now? Yes. Well, we're getting some messages. Can you hear us? Well, he indicated that he's fixing it. So our technical person, Sebastian, is working on it, hopefully. Hello? I guess they were able to hear us before.
Hello?
Hello? Can you hear us now?
Yes, we
Yes, now.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Yes.
Great. Thank you. Okay. We're ready to introduce the panelists that we have today. We have one of our teachers from the education system in Jordan. We also have a representative from the UNDP, and we have one of the members of Save the Children in Jordan. So I'm going to begin by introducing Ms. Mahera Hassan Jarrad. She's a female teacher from Jordan, and the question we're asking her in the context of this conversation is, why is mental health of teachers and students so important for the Jordan's education system?
Sorry?
We're ready for your intervention.
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay,
Yes.
great. We're here. Go ahead.
Yes, I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
أنا ماجدة جراح من مدرسة بيت يافا الأساسية المختلطة.
I am Majid Al-Jarrah, a teacher at Beit Yafa Basic School.
التحقت بالمستوى الأول من البرنامج حيث احتوى على 3 مساقات.
I enrolled in level 1 at Ejada's program, which covered 3 major topics or subjects.
وأثر البرنامج على مسيرتي المهنية كمعلمة بشكل إيجابي وملحوظ.
Ejada program has had a noticeable and positive effect on my professional career track.
أدركت حقا بأن الطفل بحاجة إلى بيئة آمنة حاضنة للإبداع يستطيع فيها أن يعبر عن ميوله الشخصية.
I figured out the child's need for a safe environment and for innovation and creativity incubators.
وأنا أعتقد أن للطفل الحق في إبداء رأيه بحرية وأمان.
I do believe that every child has the freedom of opinion safely and without any restrictions.
وأن مسؤوليتي كمعلمة تقع على أن أذلل كل الصعوبات التي تقف أمام ذلك.
My responsibility as a teacher is to bridge any gaps and to overcome all difficulties that stand against this.
حسب مقياس هيرمان للتفكير، كل شخص له نمط تفكير مختلف، له جوانب إيجابية يجب استغلالها ونقاط ضعف تحد من إنجازاته.
According to Herman's brain dominance instrument, every child has his own style of thinking, in which there are strengths that should be enhanced and weaknesses that could limit the achievements.
لذلك فإن نمط التفكير الخاص بالطفل أو الطالب يجب أن يوجه بطريقة سليمة وصحيحة.
Therefore, the child's thinking style should be steered and guided.
كل طالب في الصف أو كل طفل وفي المواقف التعليمية له نمط تفكير خاص به يجب مراعاته.
Every child or student has his or her own style of thinking during any learning activity.
فعلى سبيل المثال الأطفال النظريون أو التحليليون يميلون إلى تحليل المواقف التعليمية بمنطقية وتحد من إنجازاتهم الظروف الغامضة.
For example, the child of a theoretical or analytical thinking style is capable to analyze things and situations logically, but is found frustrated in ambiguous situations and will limit his or her achievements.
بينما الأطفال ذوي التفكير الإنساني فإنهم يتمتعون بمهارات تواصل اجتماعية عالية والتواصل مع الأقران في مجموعات، ولكن المواقف الجامدة الخالية من الأحاسيس تحبط من إنجازاتهم.
However, a child with a human or emotional thinking style is enjoying advanced communication skills with peers and colleagues and is found frustrated in frozen and emotion-free situations.
والأطفال المنظمون لديهم قدرة كبيرة على التنظيم والسير بنسق روتيني ويحافظ على الوقت.
Moreover, children who enjoy organization skills are skilled in their timekeeping and time management in a traditional way.
ومن خلال إدراكي لهذه الأمور أصبحت أكثر قدرة على توظيف المواقف الصفية بحيث تناسب جميع قدرات الطلبة لدي في الصف.
Through my awareness of these factors, I started to be more capable of employing information and communication technology in learning situations according to the needs of most children.
ويساعد في هذا الإنجاز هو إدماج التكنولوجيا كمصدر من مصادر التعلم، ولا سيما إذا كان الطالب له الدور الأكبر في هذا التوظيف.
ICT as a learning source is of good aid and assistance in such situations, especially when the major role is delegated to the child or the student.
ففي مدرسة بيت يافا الأساسية المختلطة استطاع فريق مدرب من الطلاب أن يحولوا ورقة الصف العمل الصفية الاعتيادية إلى ورقة تفاعلية إلكترونية بأنفسهم.
At my school, Beit Yafa School, a well-trained team of children or students were able to convert the lessons worksheet into an interactive game by themselves.
وكان يتم تنفيذ هذا النشاط تحت إشراف معلماتهم.
This activity was implemented with the support of their teachers.
وكان الطالب المبدع أو المستكشف دائما يبحث عن الجديد.
We conclude that an innovative discoverer child usually looks for and searches for new things and horizons.
وكان في كل مرة يطور هذا الإنجاز ليقدم ورقة عمل تفاعلية بنسق جديد وصورة جديد لنفس الفكرة، ومن هنا يأتي الإبداع.
The child elaborates and develops this achievement because he or she is aiming at submitting an interactive worksheet every time and about the same idea.
وبذلك نكون قد راعينا جميع الأنماط العقلية للطلبة في الغرفة الصفية.
This way, we ensure that we can take into account the various thinking styles of children or students.
شكرا لكم.
Thanks, everybody.
Well, thank you. Thank you for those remarks. I think the examples are agreed. I just want to clarify that the video we saw before from the student in Jordan is actually one of the students of the teacher. So just moving to our next panelist, we have Joanna Nassar from UNDP Peace Building Project as a manager, and she's here with us. For the conversation and to continue, discussing these important issues, we have the following question: What did the UNDP decided that it was so important to tackle school violence in classrooms, and how is undertaking this project? Thank you, Joanna.
Thank you very much for this very important event and for organizing this. So yeah, just to start by saying that for UNDP, I will skip these few slides. It was important to focus on, so the reason why we did actually, sorry for this. For us, the Violence Free School initiative is very much linked with working on sustaining peace agenda and working on peace building in general. We think that without tackling some of the root causes that we see inside classrooms and in schools, where unfortunately violence is manifested in many ways, we cannot really be talking about a comprehensive really approach of dealing with conflict, but also supporting societies and communities in dealing with conflict, addressing those root causes, but also transforming the societies that they are living in, and aiming towards a more peaceful and cohesive society. This is why it is part of our peace building agenda, and this is why we have been working for many years now, definitely in collaboration with the Ministry of Education and Higher Education in Lebanon, and with the support of many donors, on also looking at peace building from that perspective. So this is what we developed and what we have been implementing for some years, which is the Violence Free School initiative. And like our DRR mentioned in his opening remarks, Lebanon is facing different factors that can summarize the situation and that have direct impact on different elements in the society and on peace. Be it from even the legacy of the past with the civil war that left lots of wounds and is still unfortunately affecting relations between different groups living in the society. But also then we have of course the impact of the Syria crisis with the influx of more than 1 million Syrian refugees to Lebanon. Why I'm mentioning that? Because basically the Syrian students were enrolled in the public system, which also added another layer and different challenges. Unfortunately, as well, adding to that, the recent socioeconomic and financial crisis that Lebanon is going through, which also added an additional layer to the complexity of the situation, which left huge impact on the school. Of course, not to forget COVID and all the implication of that, which also specific implication on the public system and the public schools as well. So this is why we, we did develop this back in the days, but also we are keeping on, we keep on updating and to really contextualize better the intervention so that it's more relevant to the context and to the additional challenges. For example, with the Syria crisis, we of course amended some of the approaches to also cater to this new element and dynamics that we saw in the classroom, and this level of tension that unfortunately we saw between students from different nationalities, but also the way the teachers and the support they need in being able to address those new problems, and more recently with COVID as well, turning things online and to be able as well to address the extra stress that parents are living, and kids and students because of COVID, and more recently with the socioeconomic crisis. So as mentioned, the overall objective is to integrate peace building into formal and non-formal educational channels and to provide this support system to the schools that are operating in a very difficult time. Our theory of change is the following. We say that, if school-level actors, and meaning by that, we don't only talk about students, we do work with students, parents, teachers, school principals, so really the school environment as an environment. If they are provided with support, first and mostly to identify and be able to really know what violence is, and the different types of violence and the different types of stress factors, and then address violence together, then they can generate a sustainable school culture that fosters a safe and empowering educational climate. I will not go through some figures with the achievements, but we did work in a big number of communities and schools all over Lebanon. We did develop tools and supporting learning material that could help teachers integrate those principles into the classroom, into using the existing curriculum, so that it's not an extra, hours that they need to find to cover these topics. And in the perception surveys we did, and in the surveys we did, 84% of the teachers reported that their capacities have increased following the intervention. And they have reported also teachers that they improved their ability to identify, so basically to understand what the problem is, which is we think is the key in being able to actually solve a problem, to really see it. And this is, for example, when they work as school community on understanding what is violent, what are the type of violence, that it's not only about physical, but it's also emotional, it's psychological, it's verbal, and etc. So we saw in the achievements or the results, I would say, that children become more aware and they are more taking initiative, and they were more open and positive in being involved in their school community. Many of them also were attending more classrooms, because also this is another problem, the dropout, but also sometimes, disappearing for some days and coming back. So also this also had an impact on that. Better relationship, of course, but also a better outlook towards the school and all the dynamics, the power dynamics that exist in the school. Why I'm saying this, which also definitely created more awareness, confidence, and between the school community as a community. Why I'm saying this? Because in a report that you can all have access to, because it's published on our website, lb.undp.org, we did a publication on the experience of this initiative or this experience, basically. We reported that in a publication. And we saw that while diverse forms of violence were reported, over time, incidents of violent acts at school and home decreased. And parents reported better managing anger and fears at home as well, because parents were also targeted. In the sessions, because the methodology is divided into first trainings, awareness raising for all the groups, like for parents, students, and teachers. Then we form task forces. And these task forces, it's interesting that one of the few times where a school principal is sitting next to a 15-year-old kid and a teacher together in a committee to analyze what are the problems in the school community and think of solution for that. These solutions are summarized in a code of conduct that they develop, all of them, to put the rights, the duties, and also the commitment towards the school. And how do we want to see our school transforming into a violent-free community? So we saw also that at least in the schools where we worked, fewer children were at risk of dropping out. The task forces, many of them are still meeting even after we exit, because also we did work with an exit on an exit strategy with each school. And during COVID, they were committed to continue doing the sessions online, which is really amazing in a context where in Lebanon, let's remember, no electricity, no internet. So to add to all the other problems, so also committing to being there and showing up was important. And it's really about this sustainable peace that I mentioned, this inclusivity about everyone in the school community, regardless of the nationality, of the background, of anything, were included in the process, and how this transformation is happening of the culture of what a school is and the space and this power dynamics between the leadership, the school principals, and the kids. Of course, we had several challenges, and we still do. I mean, starting with, as I said, the economic financial crisis that led to many ongoing, until today, strikes, multiple disruptions, delays, especially after also the Beirut August 4th blast, which also affected many schools physically. COVID, of course, lockdown. Also, because of the crisis now in Lebanon, there is an increase in the number of kids that are enrolled in public school. Some figures like around 100,000 to 120,000 between 2019 and 2021 were registering in the public school. Just to say that before the crisis, 60% of kids in general are only registered in public schools. So also, I mean, part of the recommendation that we saw that it's really important to look at sustaining peace and peace-building agenda, also focusing on the school community, because the school is not just about, teaching and transferring the knowledge, but it's also about shaping behaviors, attitudes, and personalities of kids that will become active citizens of today, I would say, and tomorrow. And it's really about, working on all these values and principles of respect, of diversity, of non-discrimination, of positive learning, of also the democracy, because it's about, this space where kids can feel free to basically raise their concern and be participants in deciding on what the solutions could be. Some testimonials from children, confidence in managing intra and interpersonal relation, because also, I mean, to mention that after the code of conduct are developed, they have to come up with ideas for activities that they would do in the class, in the school, and outside as well. So they did collaborate, for example, with their municipalities, with the communities. They invited their parents, but also the community members to their activities that they designed and implemented. We saw better managing of anger, for example, of parents at home. And many told us that we feel now more equipped with reacting to a certain situation when my kid, for example, is going through a phase. I didn't know before that I had so many tools I can use that are other than, the traditional tools of punishment, between brackets, that they used to know about. A greater degree of awareness of what is violence and thus how to also respond to that. Some also success stories from schools, creation of school bands, school music bands, which is important to say that unfortunately not all public schools have the opportunity to offer to the kids like arts, theater, sports even. So all these also were introduced and had a great impact on kids. Some school, for example, did add the code of conduct as a necessary step for parents to register their kids in the school. So for example, if you want to register your kids, you have to sign to this code of conduct that we developed and kind of, commit that you will be also using it. This is basically in brief. I don't know if you have time to show the video, but I think there was problem in the sound. If we have time, that would be great. And of course, ready for any questions later. Thank you.
Joanna, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. And I encourage people to visit the report. I think so many things to highlight. I will wait because I know closer the Ejada project, and I know there's some alignment in terms of the points I want to make at the end. But in the interest of time, maybe we have Ejada, and then we'll look at whether the videos can be shown when we don't have the next speaker. But thank you so much. I want to make sure we move to our last speaker from Jordan. We have Dr. Quaz Momani is a teacher professional development lead at the Save the Children Jordan team. He's coming to us remotely and really close to the Ejada program in Jordan. We're asking Dr. Quaz to tell us more about Ejada, how it was developed, and how it has worked across the Jordan education system. As I highlight just now, the alignment with some of the things that Joanna was sharing with us is incredible. And the second question for Dr. Quaz is, what type of lessons can the global education system learn from Ejada, which I think we had also recommendations coming from the project from UNDP. So go ahead, Dr. Quaz.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Thank you, Claudia. Thank you for this opportunity to introduce Ejada and answer your questions. Actually, Ejada was an initiative proposed by Save the Children Jordan to the Ministry of Education in Jordan. The proposal is based on the belief of the importance of focusing on the psychological aspects of teachers and students, especially after COVID-19 and its impact on the educational system. In addition to a huge number of refugee students who were integrated and enrolled in public schools in Jordan. We are talking about 10,000 of students who were already included or enrolled in the public schools. We believe this has its negative impact and on the psychological and emotional aspects of teachers, and overloaded their tasks and their work. Ministry of Education in Jordan shared the same belief and concern and found this initiative as a potential solution for many challenging social and emotional aspects on the teacher's level, because this initiative would enhance and promote the level of teachers' well-being and quality of education, as well as we all believe that well-being on the level of teacher will directly impact it to their practices in classroom and will impact on students' well-being as well. Ejada Educational Specialist Team has adopted two approaches for both the design and implementation of the program. The design thinking approach was used and adopted for the development of the content and modules of the training. This approach started with the empathy phase to feel and touch on actual needs of teachers in their real setup. Then, moving to create ideas and solutions, tested the solution, and do the simulation for all the modules before being implemented. And finally, we came up with more appropriate solution, which was creating 8 different modules in 8 different subjects, focusing on self-philosophy, occupational well-being, modeling, teaching thinking, design thinking, and learning resources on different levels. These modules were created by both Save the Children specialists and in participation with teachers, supervisors, and different participants from Ministry of Education. These modules were all developed and operated across Jordan to work with Jordan ecosystem, as all the outcomes depends on the school real situation in terms of infrastructure, location, geographical location, or even staff qualification. The second methodology was used for the implementation, which was adopted to implement these modules, called Enabling Teachers Common Approach. We believe that it's very important to have the role of direct, post-direct manager of teachers. Teachers need support from their leaders. So this approach gives the chance for teacher to get the support from his direct leader or school principal in this case. Moreover, we adopted the approach of 20-30-50 methodology, where teachers improve their knowledge and skills and attitude with a ratio of 20% from expert depending on face-to-face training, 30% of sharing ideas and discussion with colleagues in the same schools, and 50% from self-learning and the practical tasks. Of course, Ministry of Education, which is inventing and working on the development of teachers' professional development strategies, has accredited all these modules. Now, we are done with the design stage, and we went through the implementation stage in 2022. It was the piloting. First stage was piloting. We started with around 500 teachers, and we already implemented these approaches and trained them on the modules that were prepared previously. Now, in terms of accreditation and for the sustainability purposes, Ministry of Education has accredited all these modules. That means teachers who will be enrolled in these modules will be promoted on the ranking system of Ministry of Education. Regarding the training of teachers, we believe in the idea that we need to build the capacity of Ministry of Education itself to be able to implement the training in the future. And that's why we prepared a set around all the country of Jordan. We have prepared hundreds of supervisors to be trainers for this program. These teachers, these supervisors were trained and certified to do the training for teachers. And in the same time, we built the capacity of the Ministry of Education centered personnel to be able to implement and launch the program in the future when we hand over all the project for Ministry of Education. On the other hand, when we are talking about students' well-being, what we did was we created and we built a tool that's seeking and asking about students' well-being among the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan. Over 5,000 teachers in all the region in Kingdom applied and participated in this survey. The outcomes clearly indicates that teachers, in terms of occupational well-being, their average answers were from between low to moderate. That clearly shows how important our participation to work on these aspects is very important. This tool or this study focused on 6 aspects regarding teachers' well-being. It was about financial aspect, physical environment, physical aspect, psychological, cognitive, and social aspect as well. The results and recommendations of this study was shared with Ministry of Education. Ministry of Education already will adapt and will use the result of this study for their strategic planning in the future regarding the professional development requirement of the teachers. Regarding the piloting stage, I mentioned before that we already trained 500 teachers. Ejada program already completed this pilot where these teachers were trained and enrolled in different modules based on their level. And what we mean by level is on the ranking system, we have 5 levels. We targeted the first and second level on the rank system. And to be sure that our initiative is working well within the ecosystem of Jordan and can get any positive indicators, we implemented a proof of study that has focused on different aspects, self-assessment from teachers, focus group, interviews with teachers and students and supervisors, and mainly in general, we found that there are some positive improvement indicators related to teachers' competences in well-being, such as self-awareness, self-management, emotional regulations, and using and utilizing different learning resources in a classroom. On the other hand, most of teachers reported enhanced skill levels in planning and classroom management. Also implementing and utilizing new methodologies inside their classroom. The program had a positive effect on overall the school community itself as teachers start to work and implement and activate what we call learning community inside the schools. In general, this study, especially proof of concept, is still under, it was for the pilot, will be done again as an evaluation, impact evaluation study, and will be published as well what we are going to do with the national survey.
Dr.
Also, it
Quaz?
will be shared and published on a higher level. Sorry?
Yes, I mean, as you know, everyone here, and you're in the remote session. We started late, but we want to make sure that we respect also the time of the next group, and they're already here to prepare. So I just want to maybe do some closing remarks because we ran out of time for having a discussion. All of that time was pretty much consumed.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I just want to leave you with some slide that showed some testimonials from the different participations from different beneficiaries. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your presentation and your message. I do have some closing remarks, and I encourage people to reach out to our team here for more details and copies of those reports. I want to highlight a few things that I think are important elements of both the program in Lebanon as well as the program in Jordan. This idea of addressing the ecosystem and all of the stakeholders, keeping the student at the center. I think we heard so much from both examples about that, and really empowering and building the community, the school community, and how that turns into healthy homes and better relationships. This idea of sustainable solutions is important, and that I think that ties really well with the idea of an ecosystem and engaging everyone from donors to all stakeholders at the school level. This idea of improving a lot of the elements and approaches, I think, of both programs were really to continue to improve solutions that will adapt. I think we heard from Joanna how you customize. COVID brought to both programs opportunities for the solution, the ecosystem to empower teachers to address the challenges that were stress, economic, and social, and in many dimensions. I think empowering teachers and educators and children as agents of change, and how I think for the early results that we have in Jordan with the proof of concept, that is, there's some evidence, but even for Lebanon and the work that has been done for now many years, decreasing the crowds, building better relationships, some of the task forces, some of the co-design that happens, examples of code of conduct, and some of the examples brought by the teacher in Jordan is what we want to see. I feel like, just to close, the idea of is scaling up, how there's solutions, we're really thinking about not just the population that we're serving, but really the large population, not only in the region, but hopefully around the world. So many of the elements in the reports, in the publications, in the tools like the National Teacher Survey will be things that are available to this audience. So I want to finish here, but I want to ask before we close to Joanna to have maybe a final thought, as well as our partner community, Jameel, so George here. So do you want to offer just one thought that speaks for your program?
Yeah, so thank you very much. Yeah, just to maybe one final thought to reiterate on the idea that that we should all be looking at the school as an example or as a laboratory, I would say, of what is happening outside, and this is the main idea. I mean, kids are affected on a daily basis by things happening outside the classroom, parents as well, teachers as well, and I mean, this is how we should look at the school. This is where they spend most of their time. So shaping their personalities really happen there, and they come, whether we like it or not, they come affected, and they have the reactions of their parents sometimes to events happening politically. And if it's a diverse classroom with people from different backgrounds and families from different religious, sectarian, political background, the kids are also coming with that. So it's really important to look at the issue from that perspective as well, and be able to address it properly. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanna. George?
Just a few remarks from me, just to thank first of all, Dr. Claudia Ruea from Abdulatif Jameel World Education Lab at MIT, Mr. Mohammed Saleh from UNDP, Professor Mohammed Samadi from the government of the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan, Madam Ejada, and the wonderful video that you shared of one of your students, Joanna Nassar, Dr. Qais, and our co-conveners, Dubai Cares, and particularly His Excellency Dr. Tariq Al-Ghurg, who have helped to convene this meeting. On behalf of Community Jameel, just to conclude by saying that supporting the psychosocial needs of teachers and their pupils is vital to ensuring classrooms are safe and conducive to learning, especially in the face of severe disruption, whether from war, displacement, the pandemic, and other causes. The Ejada program is groundbreaking in its use of compassion as a key tool in teachers' professional development, and is the product of a powerful collaboration between JWell at MIT, Save the Children, the Ministry of Education in Jordan, and we are proud to be a supporter as Community Jameel alongside Dubai Cares and Hikmah. And I just want to close by thanking everybody for participating in today's meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.